Hello there. So this is an overview video about the Evaluating Sources project. It's one of the bigger projects we do, and it's got several moving pieces. So I'll do my best to explain it and see if I can make it less confusing. First of all, what are we doing? Why do we evaluate sources? Well, first of all, we're in college, right? And so that's kind of what we do is you need to make sure you're using reliable sources of information when you write papers, when you do research, like for all sorts of things. And so what we're going to do in this project is continue on the process of developing criteria that we started with the word processing project. So in that project, I gave you a single website to look at, a single source that had a list of criteria. And I said, find an article and do a summary and do an evaluation based on this criteria. And so most of you did pretty good on that. As we go through the project, I'm looking at that and most everybody did pretty good. The area where people always kind of skimp on is the evaluation part because that part's a little hard. So we're going to go into more detail here so you get some more practice. Let me jump over to Moodle so I can show you what we're talking about. So, like I said, there's several parts, but let's start off first with the evaluating part. Okay, so I'm going to open up this source, this distinguishing scholarly from non-scholarly periodicals. So that's what you have to figure out first. Like, what constitutes a scholarly source? And the University Library in Cornell has done a really good job of concisely giving you some definitions and examples. So if you look here, what you're going to see is you're going to see these different tabs. And so it gives an overview on this page and some definitions. But then if you click through the tabs, it goes into a little more detail about what a scholarly source is. And then it gives you some examples, like you go down the page. And it does that for each of these. And it starts it off, it's kind of in ranked from most scholarly down to least scholarly. So if you flip through these, you'll see what I'm talking about. And so this one is news and general interest, but ones that are a little bit of a higher level, like Scientific America, the New York Times. It gives some good examples. The next one is popular journalism, Ebony and Parents. It's not that they're bad, they're just not like high quality journalism. And the last category here is sensational, the National Enquirer, the Star Magazine, Globe. There's lots of things that fall into that category. So you definitely want to keep your sources up in these top two, the scholarly and the news and general interest category. So let's jump back over, or let's close this, and we'll jump to what we're going to do for the assignment. There's lots of things here. And I give you some examples, okay? There's a couple of different examples here. But let me dive down to the assignment. So the assignment's here, but I already have it opened up in a window. And there's lots of parts. So what you probably want to do is make sure you show the document outline because then that makes it easy for you to go between things. So in a nutshell, what you'll be doing here is creating what's called an annotated bibliography on a technology-related topic of your choice. So you'll pick one topic. It could be space technology, it could be medical technology, it could be artificial intelligence, it could be agriculture technology, you name it. It just has to do with technology. So that's pretty broad. So you have a wide range of possibilities there. What you're going to do is first of all, develop a set of criteria based on some articles that you look at. So the project we did with word processing, it gave you things like author and publication. There's several things there. You're going to broaden out your list a little bit. So you're going to search for 3 different websites that talk about evaluating sources and find out what criteria they use. That's part 1. So part 1 is to come up with your own evaluation criteria. Now, on these criteria, you don't have to evaluate those pages. You just need to put a citation there. So you're going to develop a list and you're going to talk about why the criteria is useful. Why did you pick that one instead of some other one? Probably between the 3 sites, like if you compiled all the things, you probably come up with a list of 10 to 20 items of things that you could look at. I want you to narrow it down to between 5 and 8. Like no less than 5, but no more than 8. You're not going to look for 20 things, but you could probably look for 5. So I want this to end up being a list that you sort of stick in your head and use when you're going over looking for evaluating different information you come across. So you're going to find 3 college level websites. Now I'll give you a hint, almost every college library, including Victor Valley College, has a unit, has a page, has a section on how do you evaluate sources. This is kind of what libraries do. So if it's a library, like a university library, you're in pretty good shape. That's a pretty good resource. Um, anyhow, so you're going to develop your own list. Now, you're going to come down to part 2, your technology topic. So you have your topic, let's say it's space technology. Then what you're going to do is search for 3 articles about the topic. So the first 3 articles are about how to evaluate. So altogether, you're going to find 6 different things. The first 3 are about how to evaluate in part 1. In part 2, they're about whatever your topic is. The only criteria that I have is it has to be current. So something within the last 2 years. So don't use that. Well, I guess you could use that as one of your criteria. That's sort of an easy one, right? So it has to be within the last 2 years. And it has to have an author. Because sometimes you'll find a source that doesn't have an author. Like if it's in a, well, I don't know, like a publication, sometimes they don't put the author. But for the purposes of this assignment, you have to have one that has an author. If it doesn't have an author, I'm not going to even look at it as far as grading it. You have the best evaluation in the world. But if it doesn't have an author, I'm not going to grade it. Now, I will tell you the mistake most people make is there's 2 mistakes. One is they focus on the summary and not on the evaluation part. And the evaluation's worth all the points, most of the points. But they also focus only on the author. Remember that list I said you had to create, the 5 to 8 things? Whatever you put on that list, that's what I'm going to look for. Did you talk about it? Did you investigate it a little bit? So it's almost like being like Sherlock. The author is kind of easy. It's easy to find information, but some, like if you put the publisher or you have the bias or lots of other things, you might have to do a little sleuthing around to get information about it. So you're gonna pick your topic and find articles on the topic. Now part 3 is where you actually make the bibliography part. And so I have a definition there of an annotated bibliography. I know it sounds big and scary, but basically, a bibliography is just a list of sources, right? Like everybody's seen a bibliography in the back of a book or something. An annotated bibliography is just a list of sources with information. And frequently, it'll have a summary and some sort of evaluation or analysis. So you're going to make a citation, and I give you a couple of links there that you can use. It's super easy. When you put in the URL for like EasyBib or Citation Machine, actually, let's just go there right now. And while that's loading, I'm going to find an article about space technology. Let's see what we can come up with. Not Wikipedia. Wikipedia is a great source, but it does not have stuff. So let's see. We're going to go through a couple of things here. Let me see if this article has an author. It does have an author. Good. So I'm going to copy the link. And this is actually not a full article. It's an article in a database, but just for the purposes of this. So what it's doing is giving an abstract probably, but not the whole thing. So I'm going to copy the link. I'm going to come over here to EasyBib and create a citation. Both of these sites have lots of ads. I'll tell you that, but they're free. So that's the trade-off. So this is a website. I'm going to put in the URL and search. And what it does, one result found. So what it does, this is the article, confirm you got the right one, is that it finds as much information as it can. So here's what we found. It found all this stuff, but here's what we need your help with, the publisher. So we might have to go back and see if we can find the publisher. So continue. Add in any information you have below. The starred boxes are strongly suggested. But see how it's kind of filled in all the stuff? Now let's go see, well, it has the publisher down as Frontiers, which is what I'm going to guess. So I'm going to say Frontiers in Space Technologies. That's actually the full name. So sometimes you have to type in a couple of things. Let's just copy that up here. You know what? Let me go actually look at the bottom because maybe it is just Frontiers. Name of the site Because frequently you can go down to the bottom and find it about Frontiers. Frontiers Media. Okay, so the site name is Frontiers in Space Technologies. The publisher is just Frontiers. So I'm going to change this a little bit. So sometimes you have to go look around. You might have to go look for the author. You might have to go look for other stuff. And then when you say complete citation, oh, I got to watch the message because I haven't been here in a little while. Sorry about that. I should have done this ahead of time. 21 more seconds. Here we go. It's almost over. 14 seconds. Almost done. 6 seconds. I probably should have paused on this part, right? So you got 30 seconds of an Adobe ad. Anyhow. And then we've created your citation. So I'm trying to see where it is. They've got to load all these ads. My citation list. Here it is down here. Here's your citation, nice and beautiful, and you copy it, and then you can put it into your paper. Now, what's nice is on both these sites is if you've got a bunch of sources you're looking for, you can put them all in and it alphabetizes for you, and then you can well, it can do it however you want, but you can go alphabetically, and then you can copy it over into your Google Doc file. So that's how Citation Machine works. Let me close that. So go back to here. So you create your citation, okay? And then you do a summary. Now, what I don't want you to do is say, well, the article says this, and now it says that, and now it says this other thing, because I could read it and find that out. What I want is a couple of the main points. Like, what's the main point? What's the big idea? You know, just a paragraph. It doesn't have to be very long. Now, the big part is this evaluation. So how does this article meet your criteria as a reliable resource? So you're going to list out the criteria that you picked. So let's say you had 5 things. In this evaluation section for each article, you need to list out the 5 things and then find the evidence. So you have to actually list out the evidence. Don't assume I know anything. Like assume I'm totally dumb. Well, you might assume that anyhow. But anyhow, assume that I have no background in this. Assume that I've never seen this article, that I've never heard of the publisher, that I have no idea who the author is. Convince me that this is a reliable source. Now, in this area, one mistake that people make is they say something like, well, it was written in the New York Times and so it must be reliable. Well, that might be true, but it might not be true. Like, why is the New York Times considered reliable? You have to let me know. Have they been award winning? Do they have, you know, is this article cited in a bunch of other stuff? You can actually look that up in different places. What's your evidence? You know, don't just say, well, the author has a PhD in physics, but the article might be on, I don't know, it might be on agriculture tech. So, you know, having a PhD in physics might not help. So just because they have a degree in something doesn't mean they're authority in it. So give me the evidence. All right, this is the big part. This is where you have to be like Sherlock. And so for each of these 3 articles, what you're going to do is create a citation, a summary, and an evaluation. And honestly, each one's probably going to be about a page long, each article, okay? Each element in the bibliography. Between the citation's not long, but the summary is a paragraph and the evaluation should probably be at least 2 paragraphs. And you have 3 of these to do. So you can just put each one on its own page and that would be fine. So let's back up. Let's do a quick review. So the first thing, you have to find sources, 3 sources, college level websites, to come up with your list, to make your list and develop your list. And then you have to talk about why you picked those things on the list. And then part 2, you're going to pick your technology topic and then find 3 articles about the topic, okay, that are from reliable sources. If you look over it and you're like, this is not a very reliable source, then don't use it. Just pick good ones. And then you're going to create a bibliography, an annotated bibliography entry for each of the 3 articles that are on your tech topic. And so you'll have a citation, the summary, and the biggest part is evaluation. So once you've done all that, once you got all that done, Okay, it's in a Google Doc. It's easy to share. Life is good. What you're going to do is this next part, we're going to have a peer review part. Okay. And the peer review, the whole point of a peer review is that you get other people to look at your stuff and catch your mistakes before you turn it in and I catch them. So peer review is a really good process. You don't want to miss it, actually, because the other benefit is you look at other people's stuff, and as you're looking at their things, you get ideas for formatting, you get ideas for substance, you get ideas for things you might not have thought about. So it's a win-win on both sides. And here's how we're going to do that. So I'm going to jump back. Well, actually, I'm going to jump back to our website. And if we come down here, you're going to see peer review forum, part 1 discussion post. And then there's an evaluating sources peer review file upload, and then the evaluating sources part 2 file upload. So let me make sure that you're clear on what each of these things are. So this is the assignment. Okay, that's the page we're just looking at. Now, this is where you're going to post your paper, a link to your paper. So let me open this up. It's a discussion forum. So add a new discussion topic, and you're going to share your document so that anybody with the link can view it. Grab that link, put it into a post, and just say, my topic is space technology. Here's my link. Boom. That's all you have to do. You don't have to write up a bunch of stuff. You don't have to worry about anything. Just here's my topic and here's my link, and then save it. Now, the next step in this is we're going to do a peer review. So when you click this link, peer review document, and by the way, it's also here, the evaluation rubric, same thing. It's going to open this document. So what I want to do is take you through this step, the peer review process. Because the peer review process is valuable, but maybe a little confusing. Hopefully not too confusing. So what I did on this document, and it's got the instructions here for what to do, but I'm going to actually step through all of this with you, is there's a spot here for each of the 3 or 4 people you're going to review. You might only review 2. It depends on how many people we put in a group. Okay, somewhere between 2 and 4 people. And what you're going to do is here's the rubric that you're going to get graded on. All right, so you notice there's columns 1, 2, 3, 4. And then what you're going to do is go through here, and you're going to be number 1. So you're going to review your own paper. Okay, so you're number 1. I'm going to say this is you. So I want you to look at your project. I want you to go through the rubric, give yourself points. So it's worth, the points here are at the beginning. So this one's worth 5 points. This is worth 15. Don't worry about the feedback form. Actually, I'll probably just take that off of this because you don't have a way to evaluate that. But evaluating websites. So there's 3 websites, 6 points. Each one's worth 2 points. How many points do you get? The college level websites that discuss criteria. Evaluation criteria. Discussion. So do you talk about that? Do you do a good job? And I'm going to show you some examples of all of these. And then the bibliography part. We've got 3 things. And so the summary is worth 15 points. So each one's worth 5 points, right? The evaluation, 30 points. So each one's worth 10 points. The citation, each one's only worth 1 point. And then are they reliable sources? So this one's worth 4 points. It's kind of a, if 2 of them are really good and one's from the National Enquirer, then give 3 points. So that's a little iffy on that one. It's not really 2 points each, and it's not really 1 point each. Probably what you ought to do is it's 1 point each, and then if all 3 of them are, you give them the 4th point. Yeah, and here's just the mechanics, the document formatting, the file format, the file name, is it all in the proper order? And then was it published to Twitter, and is there a link on the footer? So you're going to go through the same grade process that I'm going to go through and grade yourself as number 1. And then number 2, 3, and 4 will be the other people. And so what you need to be able to do, and we'll do this in Zoom, we're going to have a workshop time in Zoom. So you're going to put the person's name here. You're going to get their email address, put it here so you can share it with them. And then write in this box, what was the list of criteria that they used? You know, did they use author and currency and publication and bias, and you know, what were the things they used? And then comments that you have, constructive feedback that you have for them. So it can't be things like, this really sounded dumb. It might be things like, you know, I noticed you had 6 criteria, but you only addressed 3 of them. You really need to address all 6 to get full credit. So give them advice that you would want if somebody's looking at your paper. Now, you can't type on my document, so how's that going to work? And I have instructions here up at the top part, copy this document. So if you go to the File menu, make a copy, and then what you're going to do is put your name here, get rid of the copy of. So you put your name in this top space, okay? And then you say, okay. And what it will do is it'll make a copy, and you can edit all you want on this copy. So I'm going to close the outline. So this is the copy you edit on. So you're going to copy the document, and one of the things it says to do is get the share link. So you're going to click share. Now by default, it's restricted, but if you click that and say anyone with the link, it's going to give you a new link. So you copy the link, say done, and then right up here, you paste the link. That's all you got to do. That way you have the link. I'm going to unbold it because by default it kind of bolds it because the title's bold. So you just put that, that's the link to your document. This is the one you're going to edit. And then you just follow the instructions as you're going through each person's paper. I'll have to fix that a little bit. Had too much extra space. We can go like this. Don't worry too much about the formatting on the document. Like I can fix all that. Anyhow, so you're going to be number 1. And then each of the people you review are going to be the other numbers, and then just fill in the numbers. Right here, you're not going to make any comments. You're just going to say, if I was grading this, I would give them a 5. If I was grading this, I'd give them a 2, whatever you're going to give them. But then up here, this is where you talk about it. And you don't have to write like 14 paragraphs or anything. Don't worry about that. So what are we going to do with that? Let's go back to, well, let me come down here a little more. So you're going to do the peer reviews. Okay, you're going to review all this. You're going to share and submit. And so what the reason you got their email addresses is because you want to be able to send them a copy of this. You want to be able to share it with them, or as view only. Don't give them edit rights on it. I don't want people changing it, but share it with the people that you reviewed, either by sending them a copy of it, like, because you have to download a PDF anyhow. So either send them the copy or come up to the share button. But what you're going to do to give it to me, you're going to share it with me, but then, whoops, download PDF. Okay, and that's when you come back to Moodle, and let me go back to our assignment here, or to our block. That's where you're going to upload it. Oops. So that's going to go here to the peer review file upload. Okay, so you just come down here, add submission, and it will let you upload the file. All right, so let me backtrack just a little bit, because I know that's a lot. Let's go back to the assignment, the evaluating sources assignment, and then I'll show you some samples, and then you'll be done with me for this video. So what are you going to do first? You got to come up with a list of criteria. Okay, where are you going to find that? Free college level websites that talk about how to evaluate sources. You could just do a Google search. How do I evaluate credible sources? How do I find reliable sources? Use the word criteria. What criteria do I use? There's lots of different ways you can search for that. Make sure it's not like an elementary school library, okay, because they probably have it too. It has to be college level. It doesn't have to be a library. There's other places that talk about this. You just have to make sure it's a good source. You're going to develop your list of criteria and briefly discuss why each criteria is useful. Don't just copy the description from the websites. You have to use your own word, okay? Then you're going to pick your topic, and you're going to find 3 articles on that topic. And then you're going to use those articles to create an annotated bibliography where you create a citation, you write up a summary, and you do an evaluation based on the sources you picked. Once you've got that done, and you have to have it done by the deadline, which is on the calendar, once you have that done, you're going to go to the assignment in Moodle. So you're going to go to the discussion post and put your link and just your topic. My topic is, and here's my link that you've shared. The next day, because that's due a Wednesday night, the next day, when the next time we're in Zoom, what we're going to do is do the peer review process as a workshop in class. And so if you want to get a head start, then you make a copy of that evaluation rubric that we're going to use, and then you can just kind of have a jump start on that. All right, so let me finish up with what's on this document. This is a word about scholarly sources. It links to that Cornell University website. Curation tools, you can do this in a lot of ways. Most people do a Google Doc, but I'm open to some creativity if you want, as long as it covers all the bases, however you decide you want to do it. Here's the timeline, and this is the timeline for the Winter 21 class. So if you're seeing this in a different class, look for the dates. But in a nutshell, we're going to have basically a 2-week thing. So the first week, you're finding your topic and your article, and you're writing stuff up. And then the second week, you're submitting your rough draft, you're doing peer reviews, and you're doing final revisions. And then you're going to turn it into me. Okay, so it's follow all the steps there. And then there's the grading rubric that's on here. That's a lot of stuff. That's an awful lot of stuff. But I give you examples. Okay, so this first one, evaluating sources examples. This is pretty useful, and it's got a lot of stuff here, okay? But these are examples from previous students, and you don't necessarily need to do this steps in a research project. That's kind of why it's on the bottom. But if you go through here, this first section is the evaluation criteria discussion. Remember, I said you had to talk about why you picked different criteria. And so, you can just go through. Some people did really long stuff. Other people did kind of shorter discussions. So I think there's like 3 or 4 of these criteria discussions, just to give you an idea of what you're looking for. And I actually copied the papers from the students. Now, the second part, these are examples of the summary and evaluations. Same thing from students to give you an idea. So here's a summary, and you can read this couple of paragraphs, and they went into some depth here. Most of these guys did pretty good. Here's another summary. This one's shorter. Here's a third example. So this is just so you can take a look at it. This will give you an idea, like, am I doing all the stuff? Do I have all the pieces? I think as you go through this process, so let me stop screen sharing. As you go through this process, what you're trying to do, like I said in the beginning, is you're trying to hone your powers of observation. You're trying to hone your discernment. You're trying to hone your search skills, your evaluation skills. This is a really good project. This covers lots and lots of things because we see so much information digitally. And even, this applies to books and magazines and whatever, but we're like awash in information. And so the Evaluating Sources project, the whole goal of it is to help you become a more discerning consumer of what you see. So I hope you found this video useful. Feel free to post questions to the help desk. Ask questions in Zoom. We'll get you going in the right direction.